What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Made You a Mixtape podcast. I'm your host, Jason. Hope you're doing well. With me today, if you listen to sports radio in the GTA area, that's Greater Toronto area, for those not listening in Canada, you definitely know the voice of my next guest, Sportsnet 590 The Fan host, Hugh Burrill. Welcome to the show, Hugh. How are you doing?
Wiz, how are you? I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Anytime anybody wants to talk music, man, I'm down for it. Let's do this.
Oh, we're going to talk music eventually, but I do have to ask exactly how many cups of coffee do you have to drink in the morning to get ready for the show, the lead off first thing in the morning?
I've got it down to 2. One when I come in, and then another one at around 7:30. I'm usually in the office around 4, which means I'm getting up at 3. That's why I look as tired as I do all the time. Every conversation I have with people somehow revolves around sleep or lack thereof. Welcome to the morning show.
Which, and that's the thing, when you think about it, most of the games, because we're in the Eastern time zone, most of the games, 7 o'clock, and then you get your 10 o'clock starts. So, I mean, you have to think that for a morning show, you're pretty much done and asleep before those, those games are even finished. So, kind of go through your daily process in getting ready for the show.
Well, I mean, I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit and let everybody in on a trade secret. People who work the morning show don't often always see the entire game. That's what highlight packs are for. I mean, Stanley Cup playoffs is a great example. I'll try to catch like the first period and a half, and then hit the sack, and then get up and kind of catch up in the morning. I mean, we have mechanisms at work that we record the games. We can see as much or as little of the games as we need to. But yeah, I'm usually in bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock, a little, usually around there. Again, up at 3, in the station by 4, out of there by 9. Have a nap around 12:31, back up again at around 5. And I don't really nap. I more or less split my sleep, right? I try to get 3 hours during the day and maybe another 4 or 5 at night. But you never get used to it. You adjust to it, but you never get used to it.
Now, for our listeners here, I will let you know that we are recording this episode the day after the Montreal Canadiens won Game 2 of the Stanley Cup semifinals, and Hugh is an unashamed, full-on, hardcore Montreal Canadiens fan. So,
I got something for you.
He's going for the Habs. He's going for the Habs gear, and there you go. I will try not to hold this against you, seeing as how I am an Ottawa Senators fan, and we haven't had much to cheer about for a bit. But
you're on the come up, though.
Oh, completely. It is looking much better. But I do have to ask, because they're playing their games in Vegas, at least games 1 and 2, and then eventually game 5 and maybe game 7 if it goes that far. So is it hard for you to almost force yourself to go to sleep when you are actually invested in watching it as a fan?
Well, it is, because not only are the Montreal Canadiens my favorite team, the team that I grew up with, the Vegas Golden Knights are like my second favorite team. I adopted them when they came into the league 4 years ago. I go to Vegas a lot when we're allowed to go to Vegas. And I've seen games there, and it's an incredible environment. So I'm good with however this series turns out. But I guess if you're forcing me to choose which team, it would be the Habs, because that's a team you always stick with, the team you grew up with, right? And those are my guys.
And now, now that you know that this podcast is recorded today, for our listeners who are listening to it when it's finally released, you can now send Hugh either congratulations tweets or you can send him condolence tweets based on how the series has gone.
Hey, I'm the only one on the morning show who said that the series is going back to Montreal tied at a game apiece, and it's going back to Montreal tied. I still think that the Knights are probably going to win the series because they're just a better team. But the Leafs were supposedly a better team. The Jets were supposedly a better team. So fingers crossed.
And you have to think, goaltending, I mean, it could go either way. You've got Fleury, you got Price. It could go either way.
Yeah, both those guys are so good. And Carey Price is playing. Didn't have a great regular season, but I think that series against the Leafs proves that the regular season means nothing. It's just get into the postseason, do your damage there.
And there's one of the interesting things is when you're a sports anchor or a sports reporter, like when you're doing the news or the highlights of it, you pretty much have to keep your fandom in check. Is it the same when you're hosting a morning show and it's a bit more casual and a bit more conversational?
Yeah, I mean, they let us cheer for whoever we want, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all fans. We all have different teams we choose for. Most people in this market are Leaf fans, but there are a lot of people in this market who are Habs fans or who are Boston Bruins fans or Red Wings fans. I mean, it's the Leafs are obviously, the 500-pound gorilla in the room, but there are other fan bases here. It's not really a balancing act because part of the fun on the morning show is me being the kind of the lone island of Habdom in the sea of Leafs. So we incorporate that into the show. We have some fun with that. So it actually works out best for the show. And we've never had any kind of, edicts from management or whatever. Oh, you got to cheer for the Leafs. No, they let you cheer for whoever you want to cheer for. But when it comes to actually doing the newscasts, but I'll be objective. Obviously, Leafs play a great game. I'll say they played a great game. If they didn't, well, I'll say that too.
Now, I was about to say, if you start breaking into I am a rock, I am an island, I will have to hit the censor button.
No, you're safe.
Trust me, if our listeners actually heard me sing, they'd want the censor button as well.
Nobody needs that.
But it has been interesting to see the Vegas series in that you have a full house. There and we haven't seen a full house, since the beginning of the pandemic, since the Rudy Gobert apocalypse of touching microphones and shutting everything down.
Yeah, that's right. COVID is completely Rudy Gobert's fault. Absolutely. Yes.
It's complete, right there, the Gobocalypse.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. I like that word.
Right, but it's been interesting. So for yourself as a sports reporter, and so as someone who is on sports radio, those. The last year and a bit has to have been some of the strangest time for you to come up with things to talk about on an all sports talk radio station.
We did 4 or 5 months last summer. Well, maybe not 4 or 5, maybe 3 or 4 months of doing sports talk radio without any sports to talk about. There were issues to talk about, obviously COVID and some of the social justice issues obviously bled over into the sports world. So there were always things to talk about, but man, was it ever nice just to be able to talk about the stuff happening on the ice or on the court or on the field. And you mentioned the crowd in Vegas. How great is that to see 18 or 19,000 rabid, towel waving, loud Vegas fans in this series. Now, Montreal, they're allowing some fans in. It won't quite be the same as that environment in Vegas. And let me tell you, I've been fortunate enough to be in both environments. Montreal in the playoffs with 20,000 people in the Bell Center is unlike any other atmosphere in sports. But I'll tell you, at the Fortress in Las Vegas, it is something to behold. If you ever get a chance, those fans, they may not be as well versed in the game of hockey as Canadians, but I guarantee you they love their team as much as any Canadian loves theirs.
And I think that's something that, people are really starting to realize in that these markets that you wouldn't consider to be hockey hotbeds. We had Katie Caldwell on the show a while back. Katie. Exactly. And her time spent in Nashville working with the Predators. And there's another market where hockey is just blossomed.
A few games in Nashville. It's nuts. Crazy. Yeah.
But it is good to see a full arena full of fans. Yeah. And which leads us to hope of, for concerts. It's still I don't know. It's a little weird for me as a viewer, after a year and a half of like absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think that first concert that we all get back to, you're right, it's probably going to feel a little strange, but 2 or 3 songs in, you're going to realize how much you missed it. And it's like, yeah, I'm home. This is where we belong. human beings are social animals, right? We need to socialize. We need to get out and hear music, or we need to go to bars. We need to go to restaurants. We need to just gather with people because that's what we do. And, we've given up a lot of our lives during this pandemic, and there is light at the end of the tunnel now. I mean, my wife and I, we just got our second vaccination, so we're good to go. We're just we're in the starting blocks. We're just waiting for that gun to go off to let us know that we can travel again and get out and see concerts. But yeah, speaking of concerts, I was supposed to go see ZZ Top 2 years ago. Well, by the time I see them, it'll be 2 years from when we bought the tickets at one of the casinos in Niagara Falls. So can't wait to get out and see those guys.
Yeah, I was about to say, because, I know that you love to go see live music whenever you and your wife go out and travel. So, are you worried about those first shows?
No, I'm not, because there's a difference between, to me anyway, and I don't want to get too political or anything, but there's a difference between existing and living. I mean, you can exist and be completely healthy and not take any risks, and that's great. Or you can get out and live your life. And as long as you're vaccinated, as long as you're taking the proper precautions. I got news for you. It was dangerous to go to concerts before all of this, right? Who knows what that person sitting next to you, if they had a communicable disease or not? Yeah, you didn't know that. But as long as everyone's vaccinated, get out there and enjoy life. That's what we're here for. That's the whole idea. We can't be holed up in our rooms, for the rest of our lives. You got to get out and live life.
Now, knowing that you do go out and see a lot of live music on your travels, where does that passion for seeing live music come from? It's actually kind of been rejuvenated over the past few years. There was a time when I was younger, used to see a lot of live music, and then that kind of went away just with work and everything and schedules. It's hard to get out to see a midweek show when you're getting up so damn early in the morning. It's next to impossible. But I kind of reconnected with a friend who's kind of the same mindset I am. And he's like, let's go see some music. Let's travel to Kentucky and see a music festival with not only country music, but blues and EDM and rock and folk. And let's just go immerse ourselves into that. And so I've kind of, rediscovered the live music scene, and I love it. And that's why I'm champing at the bit to get out there and actually see some live music. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So if you had your choice, pick the location. You can be as generic as state or country. Okay. But you have to choose between small club show, arena show, all right, or festival. What's your ticket?
Can I pick one of each?
You may.
Small club show, Billy Idol in Vegas.
Ooh, that'd be
which good. He plays in Vegas all the time in small clubs. Haven't had a chance to see him yet. Arena, Depeche Mode. Scotiabank, Toronto, or Molson Amphitheater in Toronto. I've seen them at both venues. They're fantastic. And festival show. Wow. That's a good one. Jason Isbell or Chris Stapleton at a music festival. You can't go wrong with either of those guys. And again, I'm speaking from experience because I've seen both of those guys at a festival, and I want to see them again at a festival.
and it will be interesting too, because right now, and again, this is still in the middle of June, the Canadian American border is still pretty much, for all intents and purposes, closed.
Yep.
So you're seeing these concerts and tours being booked across the states, from international acts, at least international to us. Yeah. But there's nothing coming north.
Not yet. That's going to change into the fall. I mean, isn't it Genesis that has a couple of shows booked at Rogers Center or Scotiabank? I forget which one. But you're going to see those shows. Probably nothing in the summer, but I think come September, October, November, you're going to see all the shows start up here again. They're talking about maybe opening the borders maybe sooner than later, and maybe early July, hopefully, fingers crossed. But we got to get out and see music again. We got to get out and travel, whether it's in our own country or in the States, which I do a lot of traveling in the States. Got to get out and see the music, man. That's what it's about.
It does lead me to something about Toronto, and for those of you who don't live here, you take a look at Toronto and see this big, mecca of a city in Canada, and with all the acts, doesn't matter how big or small, all the acts come to Toronto because this is where they want to come to. But in doing that, Toronto has this feel of being over entertained. And a
lot of options.
Exactly. And the motivation to go out and see them, because you never know when they're going to come through again. Well, guaranteed they're going to come through again if they are still around, right? So do you think there should be, or there's going to be, a change in that where people are like, I've just spent a year and a half of saying, I'll wait till next time. I'm not waiting till next time now.
Well, that's a great point. COVID took your live music away for over a year. When it comes back, get out and see it, because you don't know, especially with some of these older bands. I'd mentioned Genesis. Some of these, this might be their kind of their last kind of go round. Bands like Kiss or AC/DC, Iron Maiden, bands like that. I mean, take every opportunity to see those types of bands. Absolutely take every opportunity, because if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's taught us what we miss when we don't have it, right? And music is so very important to everybody, whether you're an intensely passionate music fan like you and I are, or whether you're just a casual fan who only likes certain bands. If you only like certain bands and they're in town, go see them. Once this is over, get out and live your life, man.
Yeah, my wife and I have a saying: go see the band before you can't see the band.
Exactly.
And this last year and a half was that.
Yeah, they took, or COVID took it away from you. Go get it back.
But with the with international bands not being able to cross, especially this summer, it creates a wide open market for Canadian bands to come back in. So do you think you're going to see, almost a resurgence of that Canadian rock scene or that Canadian music scene that used to be so prevalent when much music actually showed music?
Yeah, imagine that back in the day. Yeah, I think so, because as desperate as we are as music fans to see our favorite bands out there again, I think those bands are just as desperate. Not desperate, but just as eager, just as excited to actually get out and do what they do. You ask any music, you've talked to lots of musicians. You ask any musician, the biggest high they get is playing in front of a live audience, because that feedback, that it is visceral and it's immediate. You don't get that on Zoom calls. You don't, like remember when the whole thing started, all the bands were doing kind of like these Zoom concerts. Yeah, that was great for about a week. but all that did for me was just drive home the fact that, man, I miss live music, because the Zoom stuff is garbage. It's not what it's supposed to be. So when it turns into what it's supposed to be again, you have to take advantage of that. And I think bands are just as eager and excited as we are to get this thing going.
I'm glad you mentioned like the artists taking to Zoom or to Facebook, or companies like Veeps that have come out and started to do, live streaming events and whatnot. And you see a lot of artists that are taking advantage of, what's available to them. We had Ken Tizard from the Watchmen on the show a while back, and he was, doing his Whiskey Wednesdays online. Ron Hawkins from Lowest of the Low still hops up on Facebook and does full sets. And you see during the pandemic, like I think we've gotten a few concerts from Hollywood Undead and the Nixons, shows that we wouldn't normally get to see, especially in the past year. Yeah. So when you
but it's not the same though, is it? It's not the same. It's great and good on them for doing that, at least providing something, but it's not the same.
Do you see though, maybe not for like the large bands, like a Genesis is going to go where Genesis is going to go, and that's pretty much, that they can kind of write their own ticket. But for smaller bands or bands that, maybe were big in the 90s, but they're still going and they never actually, went away, but you just don't hear them on the radio. For them to be able to open it up so people do know that those shows are there, even if they can't make it to the cities or to the countries that they're in, do you see almost a dual live streaming thing happening?
I was just going to say that. I think a lot of bands, they've discovered the live streams, the Zooms, all that kind of thing, that how that can complement their live show. So in the future, you could either buy a ticket to the live show and be there, or you can watch the live show with 20,000 people in the stadium, but you're at home in your living room. I'd still rather be at the show, but at least they're up on stage performing to live people, and there is that kind of excitement and feedback that you get. So that, yeah, I think some bands will take advantage of that for sure.
And if that does happen, and let's just put a hypothetical situation out there, band X plays a show, and as part of the price of the ticket, you have access to watch the show for a week following as a recorded stream. Sure. Do you think that might actually stop people from recording shows on their cell phones, and rather than watch the show, they're watching their phone or watching the show through their phone?
Yeah, that's a huge pet peeve of mine. You go to a show and all you see are cell phones. It's like, the show, if you just move that phone out of your way, they're right there. Because they want to capture it for posterity and they want to take the selfies. I think that's a great idea. Who wouldn't want that? It's like, so you could go to the show and just enjoy the show, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you take one picture or whatever, and then you can go back and you can watch, especially if they have a situation where you can watch from different angles. You can kind of choose your camera, that kind of thing. I think so. If anything good is going to come out of the pandemic musically, it might be something like that, Jason.
And that's the thing. Like my wife is 5'0".
Yeah,
she's 5'0", but we both love to be on the floor. We both love to be in GA. I mean, we kind of sit by the sound booth because we know that's where the best sound is, right? Yeah. But the number of times that we've gone to a show and she can't see over like the people in front of her. So maybe that is one of the situations where you go, you experience it, and then you have the live stream. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm one of those guys who once the show's done, the drive home, or the train ride home, or however we're getting home, we're just listening to what we just heard. Whether it's just like, oh, they didn't play this song, let's listen to this song. It's just that kind of that extended experience. So there you go, bands. There's an idea for you.
I think that's a great idea. You should patent that, get on that, and make sure no one steals that idea. It's fantastic.
So see, now I have to develop that idea and build a company in the little bit of time I have before this episode actually airs.
Exactly.
No pressure.
It's great. It's great. It's just another way for people to enjoy music. And I wasn't not ragging on the Zoom concerts and stuff, but to me, all they showed by doing those is just what we're really missing, right? It's don't give me the hors d'oeuvre. Give me the steak. I want the steak.
And that's the number of times where a singer will just stand up on stage, hold the mic out to the crowd, and let the crowd sing. That's just goosebumps every time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you need that experience. Yeah.
Now let's get back to you here. Like obviously you're on Sportsnet, the Fan 590 now, but you've had a really good career. So can you kind of walk us through, how the start of Hugh, the broadcaster, to where we're at now?
Oh wow! I started way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Before they had radio back. No, I graduated from Canada College in the early 90s, and I kicked around in radio for a few years. And I remember like it was yesterday getting the call to come to Toronto. A station called Country 59 needed somebody to read news on the weekends, just 2 days a week. But they were going to pay me more than I was making in North Bay, working 5 days a week on a morning show. So how could I not take advantage of that? So went to Country 59, and then about 6 or 7 months later, I got a taste of what the business can be from time to time. I got laid off along with a whole bunch of other people. This was 3 weeks before I was to get married, by the way.
Oh, geez.
My current wife. Yeah. So that was fun. Kicked around doing some part-time stuff for a little bit. And then I took a writer's job at City TV on breakfast television. I did that for a year. Then I produced the news on breakfast television for 2 years. And then an opening came up to be the sports guy in BT. And I did that for a few years, and then kind of morphed into weekend anchor, reporter, all that kind of stuff. So I was with City TV for about 16 years. kind of done everything I wanted to do. I had so much fun at City TV back in the City TV heydays, where on a Friday night you'd be in doing the news, getting ready to do the news, and you go out for your lunch break, and you'd have to walk through the gauntlet of barely dressed dancers covered in sparkles because they were about to do Electric Circus. It was, and because Much Music, we mentioned Much Music before, Much Music and City TV they used to be in the same building. So all the time you'd be running into famous musicians, like, not to go into too much detail, but I had a whiz beside David Bowie. like just Celine Dion would be walking down the hall, Mariah Carey, just like these huge artists. We used to have the intermittent interactives at Much Music. I remember the one that I remember most vividly was when the Smashing Pumpkins, they were supposed to have it outdoors in the back parking lot of City TV, where they held a lot of the interactives. Well, didn't it start to pour rain about an hour before the show was to start? They just brought everything inside and they just made it work. That was the magic of Much Music, and by extension City TV back in those days. Never really had a plan. They just went with it and they made it work. So those were real special days there at City. And then an opportunity came up to be where you and I first crossed paths at Sportsnet as a anchor reporter, traveling around covering Leafs, doing whatever had to be done. Did that, and again, layoffs came again in March of 2016. But you don't, in this industry, you don't burn any bridges, and I think I kept all the lines of communication open all the time. And a year later, I got called back to start again on the Fan. So I started in radio, went to TV for most of my career, and kind of back in radio now. So it's all kind of come full circle of life, Simba.
Just hold the line up and we're good. Well, no, it's not. I'm a rock. I'm an island. We'll allow it for now.
Island in the stream. Yes, we are. Yeah.
So when you compare, being on radio in a large market like Toronto, in comparison to that start up in North Bay, smaller town radio, and not that North Bay is a small town, but smaller town radio in comparison to Toronto, they take their local broadcasting to heart. So how important is it to be on air in a market that treasures its local broadcasting? Oh yeah,
it was fantastic. When I was there in North Bay, this was early 90s. That's when the North Bay Centennials were really successful. They went to an OHL final against Sault Ste. Marie. It was, you think it's hard getting a Leaf ticket. Try getting a North Bay Centennials ticket back in those days. The place only held like 2,500 people. You couldn't get in. It was exciting. I mean, they would lead your newscast or sportscast, as they should. People are very passionate about them, right? Because they're right there. They can walk down the street and go see the Sens. So yeah, the sports presence is very important, especially in a smaller market. And it was a lot of fun to be immersed in that. It was just, it was great because it's so earthy. It's so organic. It's great. Sometimes in professional sports, it can be a little antiseptic, because there's just so much media. And so the teams and the players and the organizations as a whole don't really offer up much. But when you're talking to like an 18-year-old kid who just scored the game-winning goal in overtime, I mean, you get that honest answer, which I absolutely love. I love that.
Now, to go from North Bay to country radio to eventually sports, as a music fan as you are, most people who love music, they're like, one day I'm going to work in a record store, or I'm going to be a radio DJ. Yeah. But is it as good as it's cracked up to be when you're a music fan looking at it from the outside?
To work in like music radio, at the end of the day, it's still a radio. It's not like you're hanging out with the musicians in the newsroom. Yeah, they'll file by every once in a while, and sometimes you do get a chance to interact with them a little bit. But for the most part, you don't want to fanboy out on the job, that it's not really professional. Kind of let them do their own thing, and then maybe you time going down in the elevator at just the right time. It's, I didn't know you were here. Oh, that's fantastic. How are you? Listen, while you're here, you want to sign?
What a coincidence.
Exactly. But what I used to do when I was at City, my wife works for Much Music, still does. So what I would do, I would send her down to get the odd autograph, right? Because no one's going to give me an autograph, but they'll give her an autograph, right? She's little, she can sneak to the front of the line, kind of stuff. So I would, I'm not ashamed to say it, I would use her for my benefit to get the autographs. Yeah.
Is there a treasured autograph? Is there one that you're like, please, you have to get this one? There
are two, and this kind of explains. You know how most people say, "Oh, I like all kinds of music," and then my test to them is like, "Do you like country music?" And they're like, "Oh no, everything but country." Okay, that's not. But the two autographs I cherish the most are Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode and Garth Brooks, who at the time, now this is like mid '90s, this is Garth Brooks selling out stadiums for 100 days straight kind of thing. This is top of the game Garth Brooks. So yeah, so those are the two that kind of stand out. But other than that, I'm not really a big memorabilia guy, whether it comes music or sports. If I'm going to collect memorabilia, it's going to be about the Simpsons. I'm a huge Simpsons fan as well. I don't have time to collect memorabilia for sports. It's all about the Simpsons.
And of course, everything in life has a Simpsons reference.
Everything, every possible situation does. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned being laid off twice in your career. And, in some of the conversations that we've had on this show with other broadcasters, you kind of have to have a thick skin. You have to have that kind of resiliency to be in it. So for those who are listening, who are, maybe people who want to get into broadcasting or are thinking about, making that journey, what is it about that resilience and that you kind of have to, go through the rough times in order to have the long career? Yeah. What would you say to them?
We always talk about you better love it, right? And that is especially true in radio or television for so many reasons. For one, it's a shrinking industry. So if you you have to come out at the top of your class in college, university to even get a look. You better understand that you're giving up your nights and your weekends probably for a few years to start. How many family functions, how many vacations did each of us have to kind of put off because I'm working this weekend from 3 to 11 or 4 till midnight or whatever, right? That's just the nature of the business. And I think a lot of young people coming into the industry, they have this kind of perception of what it's going to be like. Everybody wants to make $100,000 a year right off the bat and work Monday to Friday during the day. That doesn't happen. In our industry, those shifts just don't exist. I mean, when was the last time you worked, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5?
In my job, I work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I can't lie.
The one guy in the sports industry that works Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
but now that being said, I have a 20-year career in broadcasting, and
start out doing that.
Oh God, no! When I started out, it was 7 o'clock at night till 3 o'clock in the morning. Unless it was, or you'd get up really early to come in like 2 o'clock in the morning because the Formula One race was on at 3 o'clock because it was way overseas.
Exactly. So I think, and you mentioned about having a thick skin. So you have to have a passion for it and a genuine passion that you'll overlook these obstacles or these things are going to be thrown in your way. You also have to have a thick skin, especially if you're going to be on air, because guess what? Not everyone's going to like you. And you're going to hear it sometimes in social media. People, for whatever reason, you may have not even done anything wrong. They just don't like your look. They don't like the sound of your voice. Whatever. You have to understand that doesn't matter. Just go on and be committed to your job and just do the best you can.
You see a lot of celebrities, whether it be, local media personalities, whether it be musicians, whether it be actors. And, there's a lot of good out there. There's a lot of love that kind of comes in. There's a lot of crap that comes in from all. How do you filter that out?
In terms of like athletes or like who are difficult?
No, I'm just talking about people who like keyboard warriors.
Oh yeah. That kind of goes back to what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
People may not like you. You know what? I have fun with them. We have a text line on the show every morning. So I'll go through it. And sometimes people take shots at you. Why did you say that? That was a dumb thing to say. And I'll go on and I'll have fun with them. Kill them with kindness, right? Like that's a great motto to have, just because sometimes that disarms them and they go, oh, sorry. Well, I just meant to point out this. I think you're doing a great job, whatever. So so those are the battles you can win. Sometimes a lot of the battles you don't even bother fighting because, like you say, the keyboard warriors, everyone's anonymous. Twitter would be so much better if it was a requirement that you had to use your real name. That's what I think.
It's true. It's like, sports fan 73 has said this. It's like, yeah.
You suck, Burrill. Okay, can you be more specific? That's what I'll use a lot of the time too. Can you be more specific?
You're not giving constructive criticism here. At what point in the broadcast did I suck?
Exactly. So you have some fun with them, but again, you're not going to win every battle, so don't even bother engaging a lot of time.
But you also you teach as well. Full disclaimer: we both teach at the College of Sports Media. Yes, so in teaching these kids who are, hopefully at the doorstep of a hopeful a long career like such as you've had, how important is it for people who have gone through through everything that they have to put those lessons forward and help teach the future of broadcasting into how to navigate what the entire job entails?
Yeah, well, during the first couple of weeks, I always kind of relay some of the stories that we've been talking about, getting laid off and getting shuffled around and the sacrifices you have to make for this industry. And I try to impress upon them that it's not good enough to be good enough. You've got to be better than that. Because the industry, whether we like it or not, is shrinking. There are fewer positions available. There's no minor league system anymore. Like when you and I graduated, there were smaller towns and cities to go to in which to learn your craft, to learn your chops, to make your mistakes. A lot of kids now, their first job out of college or university is in Toronto. That sounds great, but keep in mind, you're also making your first on-the-job mistakes in Toronto. And especially if you're on air, that can come back to bite you. So it's, again, not good enough to be good enough. You have got to be the best of the best. If you want, there's always a place, on the heels of saying that the industry is shrinking, there's always a place for those who are talented, whether that be in front of the camera or the microphone or behind the scenes, doing what you do, editing these amazing stories together. By the way, in television, the editor is probably the most important person in the storytelling process because they can take a whole pile of garbage and actually make you look good. So the lesson here, kids, is always be nice to your editor.
You may now say, I'm a rock, I'm an island. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm a rock, I'm an island. Yes. But yeah, every kid is different too. Every kid comes in, everybody wants to be a hot take artist. I'm speaking specifically of sports now. It's like, it sounds so cliche, but it's true. Just be yourself. There's already a Stephen A. Smith. There's already a Colin Cowherd. There's already these other people that are out there. Just be yourself. Be the best person you can be. Carve your own path. Cherry pick the good from the people you admire, and we've all done that in our career. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're being judged on who you are, not someone else's hot takes.
Now, from North Bay to the morning show, to the leadoff, you've had a wonderfully long career. What are some of the highlights?
Oh man, there are a lot. City TV, I don't know if you call this a highlight or not. Wearing the green suit around Toronto when Vancouver was in the Stanley Cup final. I think it was 2011, 2012. The Leafs were out of it, as they invariably are that time of year.
Just record that and we'll play it over again. The Leafs are out of it.
Sorry. That year it was Vancouver. So I had the idea. Remember, Vancouver had the two guys beside the penalty box dressed in green suits, and they would make fun of the guy. And
Force and Surge.
Exactly. So I took it upon myself to get this green suit and walk around town asking people about the Vancouver Canucks. And I didn't realize at the time that, let's just say, the green suit leaves very little to the imagination. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things from City TV for sure.
That's just a chroma key accident waiting to happen right now.
But again, the camera guy, it's on the best of the Hugh lights. If you actually want to go on YouTube and see it, the camera guy did a great job kind of putting me behind pillars and kind of shooting, and just very creatively done. So that, and then when I got to Sportsnet, covering the World Series in 2014 was huge. The NHL All-Star Game, NBA basketball, NHL playoffs, all of that is just, I was so blessed to be able to do that. Even though it was for a relatively short time, but I got a chance to do that. And then that's great. I love that kind of stuff. And now just, just being part of a morning show again is awesome. And so, yeah, I've been blessed. I've had a good career. I've had much more good than bad happen in my career, and that's all I can. That's the best I can do, man. That's what the best you can ask for in life, not just in your career, but in life. Just have more good than bad happen to you.
When people, see, the sports highlight show, all of a sudden they have this, I feel like I need to be loud. I feel like I need to be extra. But in your career, you've always had the ability to, have a lot of fun with it. And that fun, kind of translates onto the screen or onto the airwaves. How important is it to, to put that out there, to say it's sports, have fun?
It's vital. It's the most important thing to me, because why do we play sports? Why do we watch sports? Because it's fun, right? It's fun. We do it because it's fun. That's why we're attracted to it to begin with. So why wouldn't broadcasting sports, why wouldn't you take that same approach? At the end of the day, I can have a terrible day at work and nobody dies. Like, end of the day, we work in the toy department. It's sports, right? Sometimes we get so, I'm as guilty of this as anybody, but taking ourselves too seriously. No, again, it's just wins and losses. That's all. I mean, you take your job seriously. Of course, everyone should take their job seriously, but never take yourself seriously. And I've always thought of myself as kind of a reflection of the fans. I'm the first to admit, I don't know everything about every sport. I'm not going to sit here and spew out baseball stats, WAR, or for hockey, Corsi. I don't even know what those things mean. I don't care. That's the difference. I don't care what they mean. I'm a reflection of the fans. So I react with them, right? There are other places, other outlets to get that type of information if you want. You'll never hear that from me. There's a saying that I love. It's stats tell, stories sell. And I again, that's one of the things that I teach our students is anybody can tell you that the Leafs won 3-2 last night. They have this, they have a cell phone. They can get all that information. Tell me about the game. What's the story of the game? What's the thing that stands out? I think I do a good job of that. And just have fun with it. It's entertain me. It's more important to entertain than it is to inform, because if you entertain them, if you attract people to your radio show or your television show, now you've got them. Now you can inform them. It's getting eyes and ears on what you do is the most important thing. I'm not talking about being a clown show. I'm talking about just you can tell the same Leaf 3-2 victory story in a fun way. It doesn't always have to be, Austin Matthews with a goal and an assist. The Leafs outshot the Predators 20. Who cares? Tell me about what happened in the game.
Now, high school Hugh.
High school. Okay.
What?
We're going back a bit. Okay.
Oh, we're going there. What was it that made high school Hugh want to get into radio?
I didn't. I never wanted to get into radio or television out of high school. I grew up in a very, very small town. I was born in Pembroke, Ontario, but I grew up in Chalk River, and I went to school in Deep River, which is like 4 miles away. So I went to the high school. Didn't go to a high school. I went to the high school. I was always a pretty good writer, but coming out of high school, I didn't, like a lot of kids, because I was 17 when I graduated high school. So I took a year off. I worked at a bar, restaurant. I moved out when I was 17. That didn't really work out. So then I went to college in Ottawa for about a semester, thinking that I was going to be the captain of industry. I took marketing or something like that. That didn't last very long. So then I took another year off, and I just sat down one day. So what do I like to do? Well, I like writing, and I like the news. I like current events. I'm interested in what's going on. So ding, the light goes off. Well, why not combine those two? So I wanted to get into news. I always wanted to get into news. Sports was an afterthought. I played sports my entire life. I was captain of the football team, basketball team in high school, all that kind of stuff. But I never thought about it as a career. So I started out, the first 6 or 7 years of my career were all in news. So then the sports thing just kind of fell in my lap, and then I fell in love with it because it allowed me to go back to our original conversation, to have fun. News can grind you down a little bit. It can be like, you have some pretty tough days in news, especially if you're out covering it. You're seeing some things a lot of people don't get to see, and not all of them are good. But in sports, you never have a bad day in sports.
Now, that love of live music that you have, obviously had to start from somewhere as well. So was there always kind of music in the house for you growing up?
I always loved music. I just loved listening to it. Couldn't play an instrument, although recently I've been trying to teach myself how to play guitar. I mean, I can do, a bunch of chords.
I hear the bass is cooler.
Looking at what you have behind you, yes. Everybody grows up. Everybody aspires to be a bassist. That's right. Little known fact, kids.
But not everyone can be that cool.
But yeah, I always loved listening to music because, like for most people, especially when you're in high school, you're an awkward kid, or it's an escape, right? And the music that I think, I don't know if you'll echo this, but I think the music you grow up with, or you go through high school with, that's the music that helps shape your life. That's the music you bring with you into your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. That you keep, there's some great brand new music out there, and it's fantastic. That's awesome. But I always seem to go back to the 80s stuff, because that's the stuff that strikes a chord with me. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Oh, I went to high school from like 1988 to 1993. And when you think about some of the albums that came out during that time. Yeah. The first Alice in Chains album, Facelift, Queensryche's Empire, Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime, there is so much good music that came out in that 5-year span. And still to this day, still listening to it. Yeah. But I do have to ask, because, everyone has that moment where, they get music given to them as a birthday gift or Christmas gift or whatever, but to actually go to a record store with your own money, whether it's birthday money or whatever, but actually go and pick that album yourself from the record store, whether it was like Sam the Record Man or A&M or whatever it was. I'm dating myself now. Do you remember that first time you went with your own money and bought an album for yourself?
I remember being a kid. How old was I? Maybe 8 or 9, maybe 10, something like that. I remember I wanted to buy a Kiss album. I forget what Kiss album it was. But they all, the makeup, full vampire, the whole bit. And my mom, no, you're not getting that. Put that back. You're not getting that Kiss album. So I didn't get the Kiss album. But the one, I'm not sure it was the very first album I bought, but it was damn close. And it was cassette. And I think I still have it somewhere around here. Devo, Freedom of Choice.
Oh, wow.
And I will play that album at least 3-4 times a month. It's just, to me, it's one of those seminal, it's one of those touchstones you have, right? It's like, oh yeah, because while music is great to listen to, it's probably even better at evoking memories and bringing you right back to a point in time. And that's one of the very, very first albums. I remember, do you remember in high school, did you ever have to like sell chocolate bars to raise money and all that kind of stuff?
I do. I was horrible at it.
Yeah, me too. But I was good enough this one year, I think it was grade 7 or 8, and you could pick an album. Like you sell enough, you can pick an album. I picked Pink Floyd's The Wall. Oh my God.
Nice.
Like amazing. I didn't know. I'm like, who's he? Who's Pink Floyd? You know what? But you turn the album on, you go, oh, I get it. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, there's that discovery. And that's the beautiful thing about music, right? It's that sense of discovery you have.
So I think that's a perfect spot to jump into the big question of the show. So if you, Hugh Burrill, had to introduce yourself to a total stranger, but instead of saying, hi, I'm Hugh, how you doing? Right? You hand them a mixtape, and on that mixtape are songs that tell the story of you. What songs are on that tape, and why are those songs there?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I hinted a little earlier that I have a very eclectic taste in music. I listen to everything from Mozart to Metallica and everything in between. But if you're asking me about, like, I actually wrote them down here because I knew this question was coming. The first song I'd play would be "Enjoy the Silence" by Depeche Mode.
Great song.
They're my favorite band, and this is the biggest hit that they've had. At the time, it was like the biggest 7-inch single in music history. That to me is kind of like their seminal song. That's the one that everybody knows. And I know sometimes songs like that can get overplayed, but man, it's just awesome.
I think something about that song too, because it's been covered a number of times.
They're the most remixed band, I think, in the world. Everybody does versions of their songs.
But to hear as many good versions of that song in many different genres, like everyone from, like, you know, I've heard Lacuna Coil do it. I've heard Tori Amos do it, and, you know, all very different versions of the song, and they're all phenomenal in their own way. That just tells you how good a song the original one was.
Yeah. I mean, I've loved Depeche Mode since the early 80s, and but I also love country music too. So that's a really weird dichotomy. There's Depeche Mode and country music.
You know what? I could hear someone do that song with like a very mellow slide guitar.
Well, I was gonna say, to me, Depeche Mode gained so much. Well, they already had credibility, but they gained so many more new fans when Johnny Cash covered "Personal Jesus." Johnny freaking Cash is covering your song. Instant credibility.
Oh yeah.
So they're my favorite band, and I play them almost every single day. I've seen them a bunch of times, and I just love them so much, and they're still going strong, which is great. Another one, so that would be the first song. Another song, going back to the 80s again, just for pure, it's such a banger. And I'll never turn this song off when it comes on the radio, is "She Sells Sanctuary."
Love that song.
That is just, talk about a burner. Like, it just explodes. I love that song. And again, that's back from high school for me, and everybody would get up and dance, and terribly, we'd dance terribly, but whatever. We were having fun. So that would be number 2. Number 3 hang on, my phone just turned off here, but I'm turning it back on. Now this goes to the country side of things. I'm not even sure if I would call it country. It's more Americana. It's Jason Isbell. I don't know if you've heard of him. He'll change your life. Music Magazine came out a few years back and said he was maybe the greatest songwriter living in North America right now.
Fascinating.
And the song "Cover Me Up" from his album Southeastern tells a story of the struggles that he had with alcohol and how he got through, because he finally met someone who kind of pulled him out of that. And it's been covered by a lot of people, most notably Morgan Wallen from the country music. Morgan Wallen's the guy who got in trouble for saying some dumb stuff that he shouldn't have said, but he does an amazing verse. It's another one of those songs that kind of everybody tries to cover, and some of them do a great job, but nothing beats the original. And again, staying on the country side of things, the aforementioned Garth Brooks, "Much Too Young to Feel This Old," which is just a great play on words, just about a guy kind of coming to grips with his age and understanding that he's not who he used to be, and everybody's going to go through that, right? I wake up in the morning, my back is sore, my knees sore. It's like, geez, you know, this didn't happen 20 years ago. So be that. And then I know I'm all kind of all over the musical map here, but I love that. And if I had maybe the fifth song, the final song would be Superstition by Stevie Wonder. It's just, to me, that has one of the grooviest bass lines, and you're a bass player, one of the best bass lines in all of music.
My band plays that song. Yeah,
I know they do. I've seen it. But I love that. Stevie Wonder, just an absolute genius. And there are so many. I'm not even talking about Prince, which is one of my favorite albums. Like I bought 1999, and then Purple Rain came out, and the movie was fantastic. Talk about musical genius, just absolutely unbelievable. You know, just so I'm all over the map. But people should be all over the map musically. There's no such thing as bad. Like a bad genre of music. If you look hard enough, you'll find something within that country music umbrella that you'll like. You know, you may not like a lot of the music out of that genre, but you'll find one or two that, yeah, this is actually really good. So listen to everything. Listen to everything.
How much does it affect you when you hear a song that you love and then you hear it covered by someone in a completely and utterly different genre?
That can be tricky, right? That can be tricky. There are, we mentioned Depeche Mode, and there are so many great covers of their songs. There's also a lot of crappy ones, right? So that can be tricky. And I try not to go into it with, with my mind already made up that I'm not going to like it. I try to keep an open mind, and most of the time I'm pleasantly surprised. Sometimes I'm disappointed, but nothing ever beats the original, except in one, I think, and this is controversial, in one rare instance, Frankie Goes to Hollywood's version of the Bruce Springsteen song. I'm drawing a blank on it right now. We'll fix this up in post. But, I want to die with you, Wendy, on the streets here tonight in this everlasting kiss. It's not Thunder Road.
Okay, I don't even know. Road.
We'll fix that up. But anyway, Frankie Goes to Hollywood's version of that is better, I think, than Springsteen's original. I know. I'm gonna get
that's that. Yeah, we talked about hot takes. That might be the hottest of hot takes right there. Frankie Goes to Hollywood out Brucing the boss.
Yeah, I know. It's awful, but that's the way I feel, and that's the great thing about music, right? It's subjective. It's not objective. There's no such thing as the greatest song in the world, because the greatest song in the world can mean a million things to a million different people. And then that's the beauty of music. You'll find your music.
Okay, one last question for you, Hugh. Considering all that you've done in your career to this point, is there anything that's still on the bucket list?
Oh man. I guess it'd be fun to cover a Leafs Stanley Cup parade, but I don't know about that one.
But as we mentioned before, with recorded, the Leafs are out of it.
I don't know. That's a great question. Is there something that I haven't done that I wanted to do? Yeah, I'm a big auto racing guy. I don't know if you know that, but I would love to cover like the Monaco Grand Prix. I would love just to be there in that atmosphere, in that environment. It's in terms of racing, it's not a great race, but it's such an iconic venue that, yeah, I'd love to go there and cover an F1 race.
Oh yeah. And watching F1 Drive to Survive, that just looks so insane.
So many new fans to the sport because of that documentary. It's great.
And yet Monaco is my least favorite track.
Yeah, me too. Nobody ever passes. It's the slowest track. It's the race itself is pretty boring, but you're too busy looking at all the scenery for that to matter.
Bahrain to me is the best track.
Really? In the middle of the desert?
It's a night race. It's wide open. There's so much good about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to tracks. So I like Eau Rouge sorry, not Eau Rouge, but Spa. Mm-hmm. With that in Belgium, with that famous Eau Rouge corner there, which is just absolutely incredible. I love it.
All right. Hugh, thank you so much for doing this. Where can people find you on social media, and where can they listen to you?
Hugh W. Burrill, at Hugh W. Burrill on Twitter. And every weekday morning on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and lead off with Ziggy and Scotty Mac.
Excellent. Hugh, thanks so much for stopping in. Thanks for the talk. And to all of our listeners, thank you for listening in to the Made You a Mixtape podcast. If you're listening to us on a streaming platform, you can watch this entire interview on YouTube. But if you're watching us on YouTube, go hop over to one of the audio streaming platforms, especially Good Pods. If you're a podcast fan, you want to check out Good Pods. It's a phenomenal place to listen to and discover new podcasts. So go listen to us, download us there, and listen to it on the go. This has been the Made You a Mixtape podcast. I'm your host, Jason. We'll catch you next time.